Hi there, hi there. Happy Wednesday. Today we are going to do a video on water retention. Gosh, I feel like I've done this one before, although I'm actually going to do 3 of them because it really is a big subject. This time it came up because a lady said to me today that she dropped some weight, but it was only water weight. Well, let's get that right from the beginning. Let's go with that. We're all carrying, well, most of us are carrying around, I think it's like 7 to 9% extra body weight in water, which can really translate to, depending on your weight, 5 to 10 pounds of extra water. And water looks like fat. It feels like fat. In fact, it feels worse than fat. If you get a bucket of fat and a bucket of water, that bucket of water is going to feel a lot heavier, and it rolls like fat. It makes your rings tight. It hangs over your jeans. Looks as ugly as fat. So I have no issues if I drop some excess water weight because it's all inches. It all looks like fat, right? And the other thing about water weight is, whereas with fat we have our own fat patterning. I'm going to do a whole video on fat patterning and how it changes with age, but it kind of goes a little bit with the body type video I did. So although when we gain fat, we kind of know where it's going. Mine's going right here on my back. Other people, they know it's going on their arms, their hips, wherever. You kind of know where it's going. With water, water's going to give you a double chin. It's going to turn up under your eyes. It's going to make your rings tight. It's going to give you lines where your socks are. Water will just go everywhere. So, if we're walking around with a bunch of extra pounds in water, I say, let's get rid of that too. I am not opposed to getting rid of some water weight. So I don't like it when people dismiss it like, oh, it was just water. Looks the same to me. I digress. 3 videos. Video number 1. So we're going to talk first about, let's talk about where water is, So we have 2 things that hold water in our body. We have sodium and we have potassium. So sodium Oh, I'm sure it's backwards for you guys. I am sorry, and I'm not even using the chemical terms. I am sorry. Okay, potassium holds water in the cell, in the muscle. Sodium holds it under the skin. Sorry if it's backwards for you. So, sodium holds water under the skin. Potassium holds water in the muscle. Now, I'm going to speak a little bit about, like, the bodybuilder I used to be. Because this was a big deal. We always wanted water in the muscle because it looked full, but we never wanted water under the skin because it made us look smooth. I have a whole diet that I actually now call my quick fix diet, but it's actually my pre-contest diet that is specifically to get rid of excess body weight very quickly, and it's the one I used for my competing. But anyway, it was manipulating these 2 things. Body is way smarter than our dumb actions, and we only have a little bit of time actually to manipulate these 2 before the body figures it out, and we can only do it to a certain extent. Otherwise, we're going to get really punished for it. So let me give you some examples. Going back to my bodybuilding era, so we would want to. Ideally, we want to keep water in the muscle and get rid of the water underneath the skin. So, competitors, thankfully, I knew a little bit better, although not as much as I do now, would go wrap themselves in saran wrap, sweat, sit in saunas, take diuretics, do all this to drop water weight. Well, the thing is, if you go and get rid of the water in the muscle, you're going to look flat. But what happens is, have I not got my thing? Man, I'm going to have to use my thumb. All right. if you get rid of all that extra water by sweating it all out and taking diuretics or whatever, and you get rid of that sodium, right? So now you don't hold any water here and you think, yeah, that's a great deal. Not so clever, because what happens, sorry, that should be a K, huh? What happens is, if you get rid of all that sodium, then potassium will actually leave the cell and go and hold water under, because these two are really finely balanced, sodium and potassium. So if you get rid of all the sodium to such an extent, potassium will actually leave the cell and it will go under extracellular and hold water where sodium did. Now potassium's not meant to do that. It's not meant to leave the cell, but that's what can happen. Now what does that look like? That looks like cramps. If potassium has just left the cell because we're so smart and took all the sodium out, now the cell's compromised, now that muscle cramps, seen that dozens of times in bodybuilding, or maybe you've seen it in an endurance race where it's been a very hot humid climate and they've sweated so much and then they all cramp up. And what do they think? Oh, give them sodium, give them sodium. Oh my gosh, give them some sodium. Well, the thing is, the potassium's leaving the cell, so actually we need to replenish the potassium and the sodium. But the bigger thing is, the muscle's cramped because potassium's left the cell to help where sodium should have been. But the heart is also a muscle, so that's the real danger. In the crazy sport of bodybuilding, there have been a few victims to that little mistake. But I should say that's, you're not gonna, you'd have to be extreme for that to happen. And bodybuilders are known for being extreme. And when there are things like, in injectable diuretics that they're taking for show after show after show, that is going to be a problem, as opposed to the potassium sparing diuretics. If it's potassium sparing, what's it going to do? It's going to hold on to the water that the potassium's holding. So anyway, off on a tangent. Sodium and potassium. Sodium holds water underneath the skin. Sodium also holds water. In the blood. And if the body's so crazy smart. So if the body recognizes that the water in the blood plasma has decreased, if the blood's dehydrated, to totally mess up that phrase, as soon as the body recognizes that there's a slight, I think it's something like 2% decrease in water in the blood, then the body will actually release a hormone called ADH. I should have written this backwards. It's all good, right? Oh my gosh, does that look at HRA for you? ADH, antidiuretic hormone. Antidiuretic hormone adds exactly what the name suggests. It's an antidiuretic. It makes us retain water, okay? This is the reason that the competitors, when they've dehydrated to such an extent for the day, then they will rebound and put on a crazy amount of weight in a very short space of time, and that's because of this antidiuretic hormone. When the body recognizes the dehydration, a protection mechanism, this hormone gets triggered and it makes you retain a lot of water. And you will know this because your pee will go really, really, really concentrated, right? If your pee goes really dark orange, then there's no water leaving your body, right? It's getting reabsorbed. And so, although you'll probably know because your pee's swelling, and now that one I have done, I've gained a lot of water weight after a show because of not just water manipulation, not because of any silly diuretics. I was always pretty smart with that because I knew this. So if you haven't stepped on stage, what does antidiuretic hormone mean to you? Well, let's talk about alcohol, and I'm going to do a whole video on alcohol. Now, I'm English, so I do partake within reason. Antidiuretic hormone, so alcohol, I should say. We know, you might realize that alcohol dehydrates you, right? But you also know that alcohol makes you hold water, and you're like, well, how can it dehydrate me and make it help me hold water? Well, this is how it works. So when you drink alcohol, yes, it will absolutely dehydrate you. And for a second there, when you're a bit tipsy, you might have abs and all that nonsense. And then the next day you wake up and you definitely haven't got abs, and your eyes are puffy and your hands are puffy, and you're suffering. Well, what happens is, yes, alcohol will dehydrate you. Again, the body recognizes that, and it releases this hormone, antidiuretic hormone. And antidiuretic hormone kicks in with a vengeance, and the alcohol dehydrated you, and this hormone will rehydrate you, but it will over-rehydrate you, and that's why you'll be incredibly fluffy and retaining a bunch of water the next morning. Also, if you ever get that hangover, that's the cells rehydrating and causing you pain. But anyway, the easy way to avoid that is not to avoid it, but to mitigate that, is to drink plenty of water if you're having a few cocktails. So if you have a drink, have a couple of glasses of water as well, because the more you can stay hydrated when you're drinking, the less this hormone will come into effect. I should stop there. Sodium and potassium and ADH, the antidiuretic hormone. The next video I'm going to talk about aldosterone, which is the other hormone that makes us retain water, and that is super, super interesting, and it has ruined many fitness person's career. So we'll talk about aldosterone, and then in the third video I'm going to talk about carbs and water retention, and how just generally to keep that water retention at bay. Anyway, that's it for now. Hope you liked it.